Hey guys, what's going on? If you're new here, welcome. My name is BrittanyNichole, and today we are playing with the TATI Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1. So if you're not living under a rock, I'm sure you know what this palette is. This dropped a week ago. So I've been playing with it for a couple of days. Heads up if you're new to my channel, I don't like to do first impression videos and then put something out here that might sway you in one way to buy it. I like to try things for a few days, gather my thoughts, and then give you a video. I've done first impressions in the past and I just don't think they're as helpful as somebody trying something for a few days. One day my lids might be extra dry. It's winter and it's windy. One day they might be a little more oily. One day they might be a little more hooded. One day they might not be. I'll tell you right now, this is gonna be a hooded eye girl review of this palette. I have very hooded eyes. As you could see, I can't raise my eyebrows because my Botox is in full effect. That's something to keep in mind too if you have hooded eyes. When you get Botox in your forehead, since it's relaxing your muscles, you can't lift your brows as much. I can lift my brows a little bit, but not enough as I can when it's completely worn off and you can like see a lot of my lid. So something to keep in mind. You can see I have very heavy hoods, and that is kind of what happens also as you get older. Oddly, it's my 31st birthday today. I am getting older, but this is just how I was born. I have very hooded eyes. Both my parents have hooded eyes and I've just kind of learned to embrace it. But when I got this palette, I was nervous because I don't usually do well with glitters. They just don't work well on my hooded eyes because I don't like to go in with a lot of heavy eyeshadow. So that's what this review is gonna, I don't even want to really call it a review. That's what this video, I guess. I don't want to like sway you in one way to buy it. I'm just gonna give you my thoughts as a hooded eye girl and how this has been working for me for the last few days. I've been trying this for about 4 days now and I've got some strong thoughts and opinions on it, and I'm gonna share every single one in this video with you. So again, if you aren't living under a rock, this is the palette. So each column has a name. So I'm looking at this backwards in a mirror, so I'm gonna have to turn my head here. Poet, Aura, Soothe, Story, Ritual, and Memory, and then each one has a different finish, and I have these memorized. So this row is mattes, this is sequin, so it's like a matte base with a little bit of shimmer in it. This is the metallic row, and then this is obviously the star of the show, the glitter, which is the most challenging for me. I'll tell you that right now. So like I said, I've been trying this for a few days now, and I have a lot of notes that I've taken on this over the past couple days. So number one, I'm just gonna get into this before we get into the tutorial. This palette is ultra pigmented. You do not need to go in with a heavy hand, and even with a very light touch, there is kickback in the palette. So heads up on that. There's also fallout, not with the mattes, and not with the metallics. The metallics to me are a little more like frosts, to be honest, but we'll get into that later. But the glitter and the sequin, definite fallout. I don't think blending those, either one of those, is a good thing. She recommends going in with your fingers. You should definitely watch her video before you watch my video here. She recommends going in with your fingers, and I highly, highly suggest that as well. Otherwise, you're gonna have fallout all over your face. Absolutely do your eyes before your base makeup with this. If you have to do your base first, you want to pack on a lot of powder, which is something I would never recommend, under your eyes to catch the fallout, because there is fallout with this palette. So if you are going in for more of like a natural look, be careful because this quickly turns into a little bit more of a heavy look because the shadows are so pigmented. You really only need to dip in once and then go in, because the shadows, especially the mattes, are so spreadable. It's amazing. You can dab so lightly into a matte shade and then work it like all the way around your outer corner and then into your crease. So a little goes a really, really long way with this palette. Also, if you're new to my channel, I like to keep my looks a lot more natural. I'm not like an Instagram makeup kind of girl. I was trained in beauty bridal makeup, so that's the kind of makeup that I love. I don't like things to be too heavy. I find with my heavier hooded eyes, less is definitely more, and I think that's a good kind of rule of thumb with this palette because it is so pigmented. Unless you are going in for like an Instagram look, which you can be, less is more if you have hooded eyes like me, because it just ends up looking heavy. Again, there's definite fallout with the palette, especially the sequin shade and the glitter shade, but you have to expect that when you're working with glitter. Any video I've ever done when I'm talking about glitter with my hooded eyes, I always say I just commit to it. I am a blending freak. I want my eyeshadow blended to filth, okay? So when I go in with a glitter, I have to blend a little bit usually, but with this palette, you do not want to do that. Otherwise, the glitter is gonna fall right down. So you wanna be really strategic when you place the sequin shade or the glitter shade. Normally, I tell you, I just commit to the glitter falling out on my face, which I do because you are gonna get fallout a little bit throughout the day. It is glittery, but it does stay really well. So what I recommend doing is absolutely doing your eyes first. That's just, if you can do that, and take advantage of putting on like an eye patch. That's what I'm gonna do throughout this video. That's gonna catch any of the fallout, and then it's also gonna really hydrate the under eye area. So I'm gonna do that in the tutorial. Another thing I wanted to mention about the kickback in the pan, if there is kickback, do not blow it away because it's like magnetic. I'm not joking. It's such a cool formula. You can dip your brush into the kickback in the pan and then use that on your eyes and it works just fine. So take advantage of any kickback with your brush instead of just like, you know, blowing, that's the word we're looking for, blowing it away. Eyeshadow primer with this palette is key. It makes these shadows so much more pigmented. It makes a huge difference. So I tried going in with my eyeshadow primer. This is just the Anastacio one. You can use anything. I have one from NYX, I have one from NARS. Anything works, but I tried to set it with the matte white aura in the palette. It's not white, it's kind of like a pinkish white, but you guys get the gist. And I found when I tried to go back over that and blend shadows, it was definitely not as pigmented. So use an eyeshadow primer or your concealer, whatever works, either works. I find the eyeshadow primer is a little better in this palette, but use whatever you have. Don't go out and buy new things, but do not set it. Let it just get tacky and then go in with the shadows and they are gonna be even more pigmented. Sometimes I really like to set my eyeshadow primers and my concealers, but with this palette, I find it works a lot better with a tacky base. Okay, so if you have hooded eyes like me, the glitter is gonna be a challenge. I've been doing makeup for a very long time, since I was 17 years old and I am 31 years old today, like I said. So I have been working with makeup for a very long time. I think I'm pretty well versed with it. I like to, you know, think so, but I found these glitters to be challenging because they are a chunkier formula. It is one of the most beautiful formulas I've ever seen. It's like the Stila Magnificent Metals without having to like deal with like cream. It's absolutely beautiful, but they are a little more on the chunky side, and I found them a little challenging because of how pigmented they are. Like I said, I like more of a very blended kind of look, and I can't really go in and blend these glitters because it just ends up falling out and they go on like boom. It is like pigment, wham, reflective, in your face kind of glitter. It is absolutely stunning. If you're a glitter freak, you will love this palette, but I personally found it challenging with my hooded eyes because it just looked heavy. So if you have hooded eyes, the glitter might be a challenge for you. I hope that somebody posts more hooded eye tutorials on this palette because I would love to see how other people are making it work. I could only really make it work with the tutorial we're doing today, which is a halo eye. I tried to go in and like dab it on the inner corner and blend it out. I didn't like it. It was like too harsh because I couldn't blend the side of it. Then I tried to blend some darker glitter on the outer corner and I didn't like how it looked. So the halo eye was the only way I could make it work on myself personally, but that is totally just a my eye shape thing. That is nothing against the palette. The glitters are stunning. The formula is beautiful. It just works so well when you dip into any color. This is Ritual glitter. They really are pigmented, and like she talks about, it does spread really nicely, but it's just like very, very pigmented. So if you're like me and you like more of a natural look, be very careful when you're going in with the glitters. Just take a little bit, dab into it in the palette. Don't like, just really lightly dab and then lightly touch on your eyelid. I found when I went in with my NYX glitter glue, I did not like that at all. It made the glitter really, really grab to it, which is what it's supposed to do, but it was like too much in one place and then I couldn't really drag it down. So I personally don't find using a glitter glue to be good with this palette. With other palettes that might not be so pigmented, definitely, but not this palette. Personally, I don't find that it helps. Like I said, the glitter is more on the chunky side, so when you use it, you don't want to blend with a brush. Just make sure your placement is really accurate. If you have fat fingers, look at these sausages, they're fat, I know that. It's very hard for me to kind of like get in the tight little areas of my hooded eyes, so just be extremely strategic with your placement with the glitters because it's chunky, and if you blend it, it will fall out. Theo wanted to pop in here and say hello. He's been like trying to stand on the palette, so I thought I'd give him his moment. Are you happy, superstar? Okay. Okay, so the sequin shades, these ones right here, which have like a matte base with glitter, if you blend them with a brush after you apply them with your finger, which is what Tati recommends, there will be fallout. So something to be aware of when you're going in with the sequin shade. Be very strategic with your placement and don't blend them too much, because if you do, you'll blend the glitter right out. All right, so I know that was some of the more like challenging-ish things I found with my hooded eyes, but overall, this palette is so easy to blend. The mattes are so beautiful and they are so pigmented. If you are a beginner and you struggle with blending, I think working with these mattes would be really good for you because they do blend beautifully. You just have to be very careful. Don't dig into the palette at all. Just lightly touch it and go in, and it really spreads far. Some of the metallics I feel like are a little more like frosts than metallic. Some of them are a little metallic, but I personally find them to be more kind of like frost, but it doesn't matter what I call something and what she calls something. I think you guys kind of get what I'm saying. I'm kind of like talking in circles there, but I really think it's a great everyday palette. There's a great weight to the palette, and the mirror is huge. There I am. I have my fingerprints all over it, but the mirror is huge and beautiful. I think traveling, like I said, this is going to be a go-to palette. So those are all the things I've kind of, you know, figured out over these past few days of using it. So now I'm going to go in and we're going to play with just the story, I think, if we're going to do what I think I'm going to do, just the story column, but you can really apply the technique I'm doing with this to any of these colors, and you can do whatever you want, use whatever colors you want. So let's go ahead and do the tutorial. All right, so I've got my little eye patches on that are gonna keep my eyes so hydrated during this video. I feel like Jonathan Von Ness, who is like my absolute favorite from Queer Eye, whenever I apply a eye gel patch, I don't know why, I think he did it in one of the episodes, but anyway, I'm using the Anastacio Eye Primer. This is the mini version from Ulta. This is like 13 bucks, and this primer is wonderful. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply that right on the eye. I already did this eye. Okay, so primer is on, and can you see right here how dry my lid is today? That is because it's freezing out, and I was outside for quite a while yesterday, and now my lids are dry because of that. I think it might be some sort of windburn or something like that, but that is exactly why I like to try whatever I'm testing, foundation, eyeshadow, whatever it is, for a couple days, because my eyes weren't like this yesterday at all and things blended great. Today, I might have some issues right there because my eyes are dry. So just take everything with a grain of salt when you're watching first impressions is what I'm trying to say here. So we are gonna start out with Matte Story in the palette, this one right here, and we are gonna work that on the outer corner up and inner corner up. I've talked about this before, so since I do have hooded eyes that are heavy, I've probably said that a million times in this tutorial, I don't like to bring my eyeshadow too heavy into the crease area. Now I know my actual crease is right there, so I just kind of follow where my orbital bone is. So just press into your eye like this if you need to know where the like natural kind of dip happens. So I'm just gonna start to kind of build out that like halo. I barely dipped into my brush. It's called an eyeshadow, and you guys can see the amount of pigment on there. So just be very, very careful with how much you go in with. This is a Smith 247, by the way. So I put most of the pressure on the lid right there. I'm gonna dip again, and that's where I want most of the pigment. And then as I move up, I just start to kind of loosen my pressure so there's not as much pigment. So like I said, when there's like nothing left on the brush, I'm just gonna kind of pull over, and you could see how spreadable the shadow is. It is taking that shadow and pulling it all the way into the inner corner. That is amazing. And then for the inner part of my eye, I'm just taking this random makeup brush. It says Jaff. I think it's from Amazon. I'm using a smaller brush for my inner corner area because if I was to go in with this Smith 247, it would be way too big and the pigment would get everywhere. So I just like to kind of tighten it up here. I'm just going to do the same thing I did on the outer corner. Sticking with that same smaller brush, I'm just going to kind of build up that pigment on the outer corner. Alright, so that's pretty much the rough draft we're going for. I do want to step into a smaller blending brush. This is the Morphe M506. Again, sticking with Story Matte. I'm just going to kind of work that a little bit more into this area. This is just a smaller, tighter brush so I can kind of target whatever area I want a little more directly. I'm hoarding brushes in my hand. I always do that. So I just want to show you what I was talking about with the kickback, right? So you could see the kickback in Story Matte. I'm gonna use the brush to pick all of that up, and that's what I'm gonna use on this eye. So do not blow that away. That is precious shadow. Okay, so now that I've got the placement correct, I'm just taking a clean brush. This is a Smith 230. And I'm just gonna now really kind of work out those edges so there's no harsh lines whatsoever. And like I said, because these are so spreadable, it's still gonna just, you know, really smoke the shadow out when you go in with a clean brush. It's really a beautiful formula. Okay, so now that I've got that blended to a point that I like, I am gonna just take a little bit, because I do wanna use every shade of Sequin, which is that kind of matte base with a little bit of a glitter. Like, how beautiful. I really like these Sequin shades. So I'm taking that on my finger, like Tati says, and I'm just gonna kind of stamp that right over Story Matte, and this will just kind of tie in the rest of like the glitter. Can you see how much more pigmented that makes it too? I really like this shade a lot. This is one of my favorites in the palette, that's for sure. And these chunky fingers, man, they make it hard. I am gonna take that little Amazon brush again for the inner corner because these fingers are two chunks. And I'm really just kind of keeping that below the crease. I will go in and blend it again, but I don't want to have to blend too hard because, again, the most beautiful part, the glitter, just kind of falls out when you go in and blend this too much. But it's really a stunning shade. So again, that Morphe M502, just really lightly working the edges so it's not harsh. So you see how I really keep it darker on like the outer and inner, and it's just really lightly just kind of connecting in the center there. That's how I prefer my halo eye. I almost called it a hooded eye. I prefer to not have hooded eyes at all, but I can't really change that. So let's go in with the metallic shade. So I'm actually not going to use Story Metallic. I'm going to use Soothe Metallic. Story Metallic I find is, this is Story Metallic, this is Soothe Metallic. I find Story is just a little too like much of a frost shade for me. I think that Soothe is a little more of like an actual metallic formula, and I am going to use that on my finger, and I'm just going to put that basically where I have no shadow, so in the middle for the halo part, and then we'll top it with the glitter. I am going to go in with a brush for the like outer areas though, so you can use a brush and it does pick up decent pigment. But I'm starting with my finger to get the most payoff, and that's just like a rule in general. When they mix with like the, oh, it's so pretty, I really like that. When they mix with the like oils in your fingers, it just gives a lot more of like a seamless look than just going in with a brush. You could also spray your brush and that'll help as well. And I don't want to bring this up like too high onto my hood. I just don't like that look of like glimmer glimmer. I just mixed the word shimmer and glitter. I don't like the look of shimmer or glitter on the hood personally, but if you like that and you think that it amplifies your like eye space if you have hooded eyes, absolutely go for it. I'm just grabbing a tiny brush here. This is some old MAC brush that the number rubbed off on, but it's really tiny. And this is what I'm going to use with that same metallic Soothe shade. I have a really hard time saying the word soothe. Soothes specifically. Soothes. Is that how you say it? Soothes. 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 I can't say that word. And I'm just running this along the edges. And I'm just going to kind of rock back and forth here. And I'm probably going to dip right into Sequin Story, I think, and use that to kind of blend these edges. I like a very, very blended halo eye. If you like it to be more stark like that, by all means, leave it stark. Go in with a concealer, do whatever works for you. I just like it to be very, very blended. So this is Story Sequin. Like I said, I'm just going to kind of lightly pat so everything is nice and blended. And you could leave the look like this. I'm going in, like I said, with a glitter on top of this because, like, hello, you have to play with the glitter if you're doing a tutorial on this. I could not use the glitter, but you could leave it like this and be good to go. Throw on your lashes, do the rest of your makeup, boom. Look done. And then again with a clean brush, this is a Sigma E27 detail blending. I'm just gonna blend any edges I see that are a little too harsh. All right, so now I just wanna make sure that I'm really happy with everything because we are gonna go in with the glitter, and at that point, I don't really wanna blend at all. If I do have to blend with anything, I'm gonna take a little bit of like a Q-tip. So I'm gonna actually take a little bit of Soothe Matte on my Smith 230, very, very lightly. Make sure you tap off any excess. And I'm just gonna kind of work that right here to give myself a little more pigment. Yep, that's exactly what I wanted. I just needed a little more shape. All right, so now for the glitter, I'm actually going into Soothe Glimmer. Why do I keep calling it a glimmer? Glitter, Brittany, glitter. And again, like I said, just tap. Don't, I know like our immediate reaction is to like, you know, like do that, but we do not want to do that with this. You really just want a little bit. It's much better to go in with a little and add than take away, especially with these. So I'm just gonna take that on my finger. I'm having a hard time opening my compact, and I'm gonna tap that right over the Soothe Metallic. And like I said, you don't wanna use a glitter glue. At least I didn't. I found that it made it way too chunky. I think really just going in with your finger, I'm just gonna tap it on the back of my hand first, and just being strategic here is best. I tapped off a little too much, so we're gonna go in right over. And I don't wanna bring this too high up either. I'm really gonna kind of just keep this on the lid up to my natural, and I mean my natural crease, because I just don't like that going on the hood. I mean, that is like seriously beautiful. And these really do go on well over other shadows. Like a lot of times when you go in with a glitter over another shadow, it just doesn't like perform to its full potential. This really, really does. It's like magic. I'm gonna grab another small brush here, again, just from Amazon, some random brand, and I'm gonna work that where my stubby fingers won't let me get to. So basically right up to the crease. And I find the more you play with these shadows, the more kind of out of control, the glitter, I should say, the more kind of out of control it gets. So just be strategic with where you're placing it. And then I'm just taking a little bit of Story glitter, and I'm gonna add that to more of like the outer corner of the halo part, the glitter. Just so there's a little bit of dimension. Just like that. I don't want to work it too hard. Then stepping back into Story Matte, we're just going to kind of try to blend this. So don't tap too hard, just really lightly. Like da, 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 da. You know what I mean? I think I need to bring the glitter up just a little. Alright you guys, glitter is on both eyes, and yes, I know it is kind of very stark looking, but you have to trust the process here because glitter is very glam. So everything just looks off because I have nothing else on my face. Once I get my lashes on and all of the rest of my face makeup on, everything will balance out. That's why it looked a little more balanced when I just had the metallic on with the mattes, because it wasn't quite so glam. So just trust the process here. I'm gonna hop off here and do all of that, and then I'll come back on with lashes on and we'll finish up the lower lash line. I do just wanna take a Q-tip though and pick up any glitter. You could see all the fallout under my eyes as well. So definitely do your eyes first, but I find that a Q-tip is the best way here to kind of get rid of any glitter, like in the areas where you want it a little more matte or anything that traveled up too high. Nothing works better than a Q-tip, I've found here. The brush just kind of messes everything up and makes it kind of spread a little more. So just go in, clean up with a Q-tip. I'm gonna hop off here, do the rest of my makeup, and I will be right back and we'll finish up the lower lash line. You guys, I am so sorry. One of my best friends called me to wish me happy birthday, and we just talked and talked and talked and we got carried away. I was doing one eye off camera and I was gonna do the other eye with you guys, but somehow I did both of them and then I had a major panic attack, but I can't really take it off, so I'm so sorry about that, but I didn't do anything crazy at all. All I did was take Story Matte and I worked that on the outer and inner portion of the lower lash line just like I did the upper lid, and then I took a little bit of Aura and Soothe Metallic. I mixed them together and worked that kind of in the center, and then I took a little bit of Memory Matte with a angled brush and I pushed that on the lower lash line, and then I highlighted the inner corner with Aura Metallic as well. So nothing crazy. I'll leave all the rest of my makeup details down below if you're interested in seeing what's on the rest of my face, but as you could see, I did get some fallout even after. I will say that the glitters really do a good job at staying put throughout the day. There's not a ton of fallout, but there's bound to be fallout, okay? It's glitter on your eyes. It's gonna happen. If you touch your eyes a lot as well, there will be some more fallout. So this is what everything is looking like, and you can really see how it truly does come together once you get the rest of your makeup on. I even like highlighted my décolleté here like Tati does, and my, you know, shoulder there. It's kind of like a little homage to her, but it really does come together when you get the rest of your face on. Glitter to me is just really glamorous, and it needs to kind of be balanced by having a glamorous rest of your face to make everything look cohesive. So like I said in the beginning, I really do like this palette a lot. I did have some challenges with the glitters, and I really look forward to seeing some other girls with hooded eyes do some tutorials. I think if I brought the glitter in, it would have been fine, but I just think that's a little too much for me. I'm a little more like reserved with my eyeshadow, so I'm really interested in seeing other people's tutorials. I try not to watch too many tutorials when I know I'm gonna play with a palette, because sometimes you accidentally like pull inspiration from that, and I just like to kind of let my creative juices flow. So I hope this video was helpful to some of you, especially if you have hooded eyes and you are wondering about this palette. If you guys are interested in seeing any more videos from me, please subscribe and let me know if you have any questions down below. Otherwise, if you're interested in seeing any more videos from me, please subscribe. It means the world to me, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.